Hey guys, what's up? This is Mel, and I'm here to talk about Sailor Moon Crystal, Act 31, titled Infinity 4, Haruka Tenoh, Michiru, Kaioh, Sailor Uranus, Sailor Neptune, which was released Monday, May 2nd, 2016, as well as Act 32, titled Infinity 5, Sailor Pluto, Setsuna Meioh, which was released Monday, May 9th, 2016. So you get 2 episodes today. That means you get double the timer. So, I'm probably going to jump back and forth between the two, but so let's just get started with the 20-minute clock, and let's begin. So something new that we learned in these 2 episodes, actually, is the fact that, for Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune, Act 31 has their identities being revealed to the other Sailor Guardians. We have Usagi making the connection between Haruka and Sailor Uranus, and then we have Mamoru and Chibi making the connection between Michiru and Sailor Neptune before they actually do a full-blown transformation in front of everybody, revealing and confirming to everybody that they are these new Sailor Guardians. And we actually see both transformations being shown, and we also see the talismans being shown and being associated with them, and that is the sword and the mirror for Uranus and Neptune, respectively. Also, we see, or we hear this repeatedly, and that is that the outer guardians are not allies to the inner guardians, though they don't want to fight them. So a quote that Luna and Artemis were saying about them was that Luna was saying that they're not the guardians who are normally supposed to be here. Like Pluto, they're Sailor Guardians too, but having different roles and provenances. The Guardians are supposed to be far apart, and we never meet. It is said that they protect silver millennia from the distant universe. They're legendary guardians shrouded in mystery. And Artemis goes on saying that he didn't expect them to ever be incarnated. So that's a whole thing in itself. In Act 32, we see Haruka and Michiru avoiding the other Sailor Guardians after revealing themselves to them, despite Usagi wanting to talk to them and work things out, because she doesn't want to fight between them anymore. So there's that. In Act 32, as we're talking about it, we see Sailor Moon in Tuxedo Mask, Usagi and Mamoru sharing the same dream of who they think is the deity of destruction. And I'm pretty sure that the silhouette of this deity of destruction looks very similar to Princess Serenity holding the Holy Grail chalice. Later on, when Chibiusa is explaining the Holy Grail chalice, which I'll mention later on to everybody, it actually shows a very similar pose of Neo Queen Serenity with the chalice, very similar to what the dream had depicted the deity of destruction as. So I think it's a mixed message in the dream, but I thought I'd point out the fact that that's what I thought the silhouette looked like. But moving on, 32 also shows Sailor Jupiter love for plants being featured, is the fact that her counterpart is the Death Buster for that episode. I'll get back to that later. 32 also shows Sailor Mini Moon getting her own heart rod and her own attack, which is the pink sugar heart attack. Act 32, moving on from that, also introduces to us Setsuna Meioh, and first time we hear the civilian name, but it's a reintroduction to us to Sailor Pluto, who gets reawakened in 32 after being introduced. And now Setsuna is a physics assistant from what appears to be the same school that Mamoru goes to, but she doesn't know that she's a former guardian. But she's awakened when the Death Busters manage to, one of their schemes manages to affect her. So when her energy is being drained, that's when she's forced to be reawakened. Speaking of Death Busters, though, 32 also showed Master Pharaoh 90, and he showed through glowing eyes, similar to how Wise Man was always shown before he was unhooded. We also see the Sailor Guardians connecting Professor Tomo to the enemy, as he's associated with Mugen Academy, so they're suspicious of that. And they also have connected the fact that Hotaru is the daughter of Professor Tomo. Not sure if she's in the know or anything like that, but it's enough for Usagi not wanting Chiyusa to go over to Hotaru's place by herself. We also see Kaolinite overhearing about the legendary silver crystal when it's being talked about between Chibiusa and Hotaru. And we also see Hotaru feeling like there's another version of herself within her. So we see 2 glimpses of that. The first one was when she has that freak moment of strength happening. And the second time is she has tranced out eyes when she has one of her, I'm going to call them asthma attacks, even though they're not that, but one of her episodes, I guess you could say. Now, let's move on to the associated Death Busters. Now, Act 31 had Death Buster Vayule, aka Eurobedo. She was level 202, and she was the counterpart of for Mercury. And in comparison, for Vivule in her level, she was 202, Mimet was level 40, and Yuda was level 78. So there's that comparison. Now, her mission was to get a Sailor Guardian as a host for Master Pharaoh 90, in particular Mercury. Didn't really turn out that way because she is killed by Sailor Uranus, who uses this the talisman to kill her, which was the Space Sword Blaster attack. And this makes it Uranus' second kill against the Witch's 5, as she killed Mimet by using the World Shaking attack. Now, the Death Buster for Act 32 was Tule, level 404, of which is 5, aka Ruru Teruno, who is a botanist from the Mugen Academy, and her counterpart was Jupiter. Like I said, Jupiter's interest in plants was heavily featured in this episode, as Tule's mission to drain energy for Master Pharaoh 90 was done through her alien plants. Yeah, so Tule, well, her plan doesn't really go that far because her death is met by Sailor Pluto, who uses her Dead Scream attack to kill her when Tule was trying to attack Sailor Mini-Moon. So there's that. I had mentioned the Holy Grail Chalice. It first appeared in 31 as Chibiusa was trying to recreate the chalice for an art project, and she brings up how she had first seen it in her mother's history books, I guess you could say, or portraits of her mother, and how her mother used to use it in her past, so she wanted to create something like that. So in 31 we see her getting help from Chibiusa, or not Chibiusa, Usagi and Mamoru, and in 32 it shows Chibiusa giving that clay version of the Holy Grail Chalice to Hotaru as her next assignment, which was to give that art project to someone special as a token of the gratitude, appreciation, or friendship. So she gives it to Hotaru, who is touched by the sentiment, but tells Chibiusa to keep it since people who loved her helped create that for her. So there is that. So moving on to what was the most shocking moment of the episode. Definitely for Act 31, it has to be Amy's dive out the window, and then while free falling, she went into her Sailor Guardian transformation. That was just completely crazy. I was not expecting that. That's completely daring for her, as well as just like, wow. It's like, I was not expecting a move like that whatsoever. Now for Act 32, the most shocking moment for me had to be Tule transforming into that terrifying vine-like humanoid. I wasn't expecting that, especially when the other three, which is 5 members, didn't transform into anything like that, and yet she did. So it was like pretty crazy, and like she was terrifying for sure. But moving on to top 3 favorite moments. For 31, Act 31, first one has to be Usagi and Haruka having an intense moment together in the park before Mamoru interrupts. Usagi is waiting for him to come by, only to get a surprise by Haruka. and they get really close, they get really tense to the point that it's you get the feeling like they're almost going to kiss, except Mamoru interrupts. So it's just, yeah, it's very intense. It's like I wanted something to happen, but then I kind of don't, because I'm also on team Mamoru and Usagi, so I have mixed feelings about that love triangle for sure, or I love square, I guess I should say. Another favorite moment I did have was the family art project that happened between Mamoru, Usagi, and Chibiusa. It still baffles me that the girls get to sleep over at his place, because essentially they're still 14, 15, or Usagi is still 14 and 15, and Mamoru's in, like, university, from what I can remember, so it's like, it's such a huge age gap with them sleeping over, insinuates the fact that they're a lot older than what they're meant to be, so it still baffles me at that. And then later in episode 32, when Chibiusa is supposed to give the art project away, she explains to Usagi that the only reason she's not giving it to Mamoru is because then it wouldn't be fair to Usagi, because she also helped, and if Mamoru got it, then Usagi wouldn't get it, so she didn't want to make it unfair, even though they both helped her and she both really cares for them. So I really like how she explained it, and I was just innocently said that, well, I can't give it to him because that means I can't give it to you, type thing. So Hotaru was my third option, basically. So I thought that was really touching, for sure. Third favorite moment for Act 31 was our first full exposure to Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune. That includes their transformations and their official attacks. It was great to see them in action and just to see how they can kick some butt, for sure. Moving on to Act 32 now. Favorite moment, for sure, is that pleading scene at the door between Usagi and Haruka. Usagi's at the door, basically pleading for Haruka to talk to her, to explain things to her, and she has tears falling, and she doesn't understand why she's being ignored now when she knows the truth. And on the other side of the door, Haruka is standing there listening, not saying anything, and it seems like it looks like it's troubling for Haruka to stay away, although it seems like she has to out of some sense. So I like the powerful emotion behind that scene, for sure. Another favorite is Pluto's reawakening, the whole sequence that happened, and how it showed that she's connected to Uranus and Neptune, and such. So it'll be great to see, or it'll be interesting to see them actually reunited instead of in that whole reawakening scene, because I doubt they were actually reunited in that sense. And also the last favorite moment is the fact that I love how much more observant these girls are, especially Usagi, in their surroundings and what's happening around them, especially when the enemy's concerned or when they have new arrivals. I guess Hotaru too, in the sense that she knows that something's off with her, and that, like, this fact that she senses that that it felt like there's another version of her inside of her, type thing. So it's just they're a lot more mature than what their age is, if that makes sense. So there's that. Let's move on to top 3 peeved moments. First one is the fact that these girls aren't really that good at keeping their secret identities a secret. Usually the Inner Guardians are like it's like they don't know how to keep a secret. It's like the moment they have a clue that, oh, you might be in on the secret, they don't walk on eggshells trying to figure out or trying to get a confirmation. They just full out say, oh, are you a Sailor Guardian, or are you Sailor Neptune or Uranus, type thing, insinuating the fact that they themselves are guardians because they're asking them if they're the other guardian. So it really baffles me that once they think someone knows their secret, they're all willy-nilly about it, but every other time they will keep the secret guard. It's just like, yeah, it's just weird, and it bugs me, for sure. Another peeve of mine was the fact that Act 32 was titled for Sailor Pluto, and yet we learned nothing. It was only her reappearance, unlike in Act 31, when we actually learned about the reputation behind Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune after after the other Sailor Guardians discover who their civilian identities were. And 31 was titled Sailor Uranus, Sailor Neptune, and such. But then 32 had Sailor Pluto as the title, and yet we didn't really learn anything. We just know that she was reawakened and that her civilian name was Setsuna. Even a refresher of what we had learned about Sailor Pluto back in Act 19, which was released April 4th, 2015, would have been great for this episode. But we didn't even get that. I mean, for an episode that was titled Pluto, we barely saw her. The only major thing that happened for her in this episode was the fact that she was reawakened and that she killed Tule. That was pretty much it. I was expecting a lot more of focus being on her in comparison to the type of focus we had on Uranus and Neptune in Act 31 when it was titled their episode. So it's just that thing really bugged me. And the last peeved moment for me was that all the major kills are being done by the Outer Guardians. The only reason this bugs me is the fact that it truly gives off the message that the inner Sailor Guardians shouldn't even bother trying to defeat the Deathbusters. They should just automatically they should just automatically wait for the Outer Guardians to take care of it. I mean, yeah, the Outer Guardians doing it shows how much stronger they are than the Inner Guardians, but it's just like, if they're only going to be killed by the Outer Guardians, then like, that's not really, I don't know. I can understand maybe one or two being killed by the Outer Guardians, but then I would hope for some of them to be killed by just Sailor Moon, or some of them being killed by just some other Sailor Scout from the inner circle, or a combination of different attacks that resulted in the death of one, like a triple combo or a quadruple combo or something that resulted in one death. But to have it only be the Outer Guardians is kind of, on the one hand, makes sense to show how much more stronger they are, but on the other hand, it kind of undermines the strength the Inner Guardians themselves have, or how much they've grown, if that makes sense. So moving on to what moment will I remember most when I look back on these two episodes, the fact that we got to see the Outer Guardians being revealed to our inner Sailor Guardians, and the fact that now the identity secret is out in the open for our group, which is good. Moving on to random questions. First one, why is Professor Tomo trying to perfect the Damian's creatures? What is he trying to achieve with them? And what is perfection for him when it comes to these Damian seed creatures? Next question. When the Guardians reveal their identities to the current Deathbuster they are fighting against, do the ones taking their place after their defeat get the knowledge of those identities, or do they have to uncover that piece of information for themselves? Like with Bavule, she discovered the identity of Sailor Mercury being Amy. So after she died, or before she died, does that mean that Tule was also given that discovery, or did Tule have to discover for herself that Sailor Mercury was Amy, and so forth? I'm just wondering. And last question. Is the Sailor Pluto that we met in this episode, Setsuna, she's meant to be the present day version of Sailor Pluto, right? Because from what I remember, the fate of Sailor Pluto back in the second season wasn't really a great one for her, and that was set in the future. So does that mean that the Sailor Pluto that we met in this episode has not experienced everything that the past, or the previous version of Sailor Pluto we've met, has faced? Therefore, does that mean that this Sailor Pluto doesn't have a crush on King Endymion because he's just Mamoru at this part? Does that mean that this Sailor Pluto does not have the friendship that she formed with Chibiusa, because that happens in the future? And yeah, so it's like questions like that. It's just time travel really, it confuses me. So I'm wondering which version of Sailor Pluto, if she's actually a reincarnated version, therefore not connected in any way timeline wise to the previous Sailor Pluto we met, or if we're gonna get answers to which version's connected to what, hopefully. And that's about it. So moving on to predictions, based off the preview we get at the end of 32, it looks like Act 33 is going to show the 3 outer Sailor Guardians uniting in battle. It looks like Princess Serenity is going to appear, and it looks like we're going to be fighting against Cyprine, which is the blue-haired which is 5, and there's the timer. So I guess we're going to see how that all turns out, but that's about it. So what did you guys think of the 2 episodes? What did you like about it? What do you think is going to happen next? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it, as well as your own thoughts, theories, predictions, but what you think is going to happen, especially if you haven't read the manga, or if you think, or what do you think is going to be sticking to the same to what happened in the classics. Yeah, definitely let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. Also, if you want to check my Tumblr page, the link for that will be down below. The page that leads to Sailor Moon is just an overall Sailor Moon tag. It's including Crystal and the classics and everything in between. So just check out what I've seen come across my dashboard from time to time. And also in the comments below, comment on whether you like the 2 episodes covered at a time, or if you prefer the 1 episode per video. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that. That's about it. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Sorry for the delay, but I hope you come back next week to hear what I have to say about the next act. So until then, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Bye for now.